हाँ मैडम, अभी स्टार्ट हो गया. नाउ यू कैन डू इट.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Dr. Meenakshi Saratkar, past President, Nima Women's Forum, Nagpur, Maharashtra. I welcome you all in this fifth webinar of Menarche to Menopause Gynecology on OPD Level series. I take immense pleasure to welcome our Nima Central President, Dr. Vinayakji Temburnikar sir, a true visionary. Tougher gets the challenges, brighter shines his leadership, I will say. Welcome, sir. Then I welcome our secretary, Dr. Umashankarji Pandey, sir, a man of great connectivity, a master of communication he is. And welcome our treasurer, Dr. Ashutosh Kulkarni, sir, who is performing the most difficult task of being treasurer very, very skillfully. And now I take immense pleasure to welcome our very own Central Nima Women's Forum President, Dr. Sadhna Kulkarni ma'am, who is founder of Women's Forum. A very encouraging, very caring and loving president she is. Sadhna ma'am she dreams only about Nima and Nima Women's Forum. And I take special pleasure to welcome Central Nima Women's Forum Secretary, Dr. Mrunmayee Masodkar ma'am, who works for the spread of Nima. When she works relentlessly. She works restlessly, she rests recklessly and religiously she works. And I take immense pride to welcome today's speaker, the eminent, the prominent and the passionate gynecologist of India, Dr. Jay Mehta sir. And I feel very privileged to welcome today's chairperson, Dr. Preeti Chauhan ma'am from Banaras. Now, I will say a few lines about Nima. Apart from protecting rights of ISM graduates and fighting against injustice, Nima also takes care of members' family through mutual benefit scheme. This scheme is in practice since 1989. MVS provides financial assistance to the family after the sad demise of MVS member immediately. The Nima Life member is eligible for MVS membership. The benefit of fraternity contribution of the scheme is available after completion of 6 months of membership. The membership fees varies accordingly to the age. The fraternity amount increases as the increase in membership. That's why we appeal from this platform to all ISM graduates to become a member of MBS. And for membership, please contact your state or local president, secretary or treasurer. And now the time to pay obeisance to Lord Dhanvantari, Bhagwan Dhanvantari. I request Dr. Jay Mehta for the recital of Dhanvantari Stavan.
नमामि धन्वन्तरिमादिदेवं सुरासुरैर्वन्दित पादपङ्कजम् लोके जरार् भयमृत्युनाशनम् दातारमीशं विविधौषधीना शङ्खं चक्रं जलौकां दध दधदममृतघटम् चारुदोभिश्चतुर्भिः सूक्ष्मस्वच्छातिर्द्यांशुकपरिविलसन् मौलिमं भोजनेत्रम् कालाम्भोदोज्ज्वलाङ्गम् कटितटविलसत् चारुपीताम्बराढ्यम् वन्दे धन्वन्तरिं तम् निखिलगदवनप्रौढतावाग्नीलम् वन्दे धन्वन्तरिं वन्दे धन्वन्तरिं वन्दे धन्वन्तरिम्।
And now about subject of today's session. As you know, this is fifth webinar in the series of Menarche to Menopause Gynecology and OPD level series. This is the life story of womanhood, I say. Today's topic, is VVF, vesico-vaginal fistula, incontinence of urine, and prolapse of uterus. These diseases are least discussed diseases. Women suffer it silently and lonely. It affects not only her physical, but mental, social, and sexual life. Let us get enlightened from our today's prominent, eminent guest, Dr. Jay Mehta. And now I hand over the session to Dr. Kanchan Patel for introduction of today's president and speaker.
Thank you, Meenakshi ma'am. Today's our chairman is Dr. Pooja Chauhan. Her qualification is MS in Stri Rog and Prasuti Tantra. She has done BMS and Diploma in Yoga Science also, and CYP in Yoga Practices. And she has secured first rank in All India MD entrance exams in Jamnagar at Gujarat. Secured first rank in All India MD entrance exam in Uttarakhand also, and sixth rank in IMS BHU. Her academic experience is she has been assistant professor since 2018 to 20 in SBLD Ayurved Vishwa Bharati, Churu, Rajasthan. And right now she is working as assistant professor in IMS BHU Varanasi. Her achievements are like Jivika Award by Himalaya Company, Gaurav Award by Gunwati Kundanlal Pallavi Jain from Bharatpur. And her field of interest is infertility, Garbha Sanskar and Basti Chikitsa. Professional experience is academic and research experience, member of various committees of FOAY, Institute of Medical Science BHU. Publications, she has published one book in 2018 with title Traditional Dietary Pattern of Indian Food and its Scientific Basis. She has produced many research papers, that 10 articles in national and international journals, and 5 chapters in national and international books. Her significant achievements are emergency life support course in April 2018, various health camps organized by Department of Stri Rog and Prasuti Tantra, performed more than 400 normal deliveries and more than 200 cesarean deliveries in first assistant. I welcome ma'am, Dr. Pooja ma'am. And now I welcome Dr. Jay Mehta. He doesn't need any introduction because today's fifth webinar. Just a short introduction. Sir IVF specialist है and IVF clinic चलाते Shri IVF clinic, founder of Shri IVF clinic, and a mobile endoscopy unit, Pran endoscopy. And he is a number 1 IVF specialist in Mumbai. So I welcome you, sir, and you can start the session, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
Yeah. So one of you can just stay unmuted. I'm going to switch on the whiteboard. Okay. And this is actually going to be a very small lecture. You know, it's going to be a very short and sweet session for people. I hope you can read this word. Prolapse is what I have written. And along with that, I have written urine incontinence. Okay. Fine. So remember, one of the things which everyone must realize is that both these subjects come in a very specialized subspecialty of gynecology, which is called as urogynecology. Okay. This is a very specialized subject in gynecology. So what I'm going to explain to family physicians who have joined for this lecture is very simple. First, you must remember that I'm going to divide this into two parts. Okay. I'm going to divide this into prolapse. And the second part is going to be urinary incontinence. Okay. It's very, very important for you to understand the routine mechanism of the human body so that you can follow all these things. Okay. See, my drawings are visible, right, doctor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. See, this is how the bladder is. Okay. In the female body, we are only going to discuss the female body. I am not allowed to medico-legally speak about males because I am not an expert in the subject. In order to deal with male incontinence, we must consult our colleagues who are practicing urogynec work or, you know, urology work in males. Okay. So those are our friends who are going to be good in that. I am not the right person about males. Okay. This is only about females. In the female body, this is exactly how the arrangement is. Okay. This is the uterus. We all know this. This part is the cervix. Okay. This is the vagina. We all have the vaginal opening in the women behind the opening of the bladder. Correct. This is the urethral meatus. Correct. You all know this. This is the urethra. Okay. Now behind the urethra, we have the opening for the anus. Correct. There is an anal opening besides that. So this is the anal opening. Behind the anus, we have the coccyx bone. This is the coccyx bone. And this is the sacrum. Okay. So we all know this much anatomy. Nahin? Very, very simple. Sacrum and coccyx. Okay. And this is the rectum. So I have drawn the anatomy. Right. Now, what typically happens in prolapse? You must understand all these structures which are located, especially let's say the bladder, vagina, rectum. Okay. You must understand how the arrangement of peritoneum is. Peritoneum is the covering, right? So the peritoneum actually comes and it goes above the bladder. It goes onto the lower segment. It covers a part of the uterus. Here it goes below into the pouch of Douglas and then it covers the rectum. So what typically happens is all the structures here under the retroperitoneum, these structures, see, I'm drawing that with yellow color. I hope that yellow color is visible. Okay. All this is actually joined to each other. This yellow color which I am drawing is something called as, we all know this, but I will still explain it to you. Okay. Is called as endopelvic. Very simple. Okay. Inside the pelvis. Endopelvic means inside the pelvis. It's called endopelvic fascia. Fascia is connective tissue. So basically this is connective tissue which keeps hold of each other. All right. Now, prolapse typically occurs. We are talking of prolapse here. So prolapse typically occurs because the endopelvic fascia has become defective. Please remember this. This is the most important thing that you should remember in this lecture. Prolapse occurs because of a defect in the endopelvic fascia. So that means there is a problem in the endopelvic fascia somewhere. So what happens is the bladder can come out, the rectum can come out, okay, the vagina can come out, okay, there is a part of the urethra which can come out. All this can cause prolapse. Typically, females are going to complain stating that kahitari bahar yeta, means something is coming out of the vagina. Now remember, family physicians should only remember one thing. Whenever there is prolapse, please remember, it is not mandatory to remove the uterus. Uterus removal is not mandatory. See, uterus is hanging here somewhere up. Okay. In prolapse, it is the problem of the endopelvic fascia. So your prolapse surgery should repair the endopelvic fascia. Please remember that very, very categorically. Family physician should remember only this one line in this entire lecture. You don't need to remember anything else. Okay. How do you repair the prolapse? It's very simple. We all know how hernia is repaired. How is hernia repaired? Hernia is repaired by placement of a
Mesh.
Can somebody answer? Mesh. See, somebody answered. So similarly, prolapse is repaired by placement of a mesh. Now, this mesh is actually placed, if you ask me, it is going to be placed laparoscopic. Okay. This is the standard of treatment. It's called as laparoscopic mesh repair for prolapse. This is what you should remember. Never forget this. Okay, you can also do a vaginal repair. Huh? It can also be done vaginally, but there is a controversy regarding the vaginal mesh. So it is not mandatory that the vaginal mesh needs to be kept for all people. There is a controversy here. Okay, but laparoscopic mesh repair is the gold standard. There is no doubt about it. Clear answer. Okay, so this is the only thing which you need to remember. Clear? Okay. Fine. I hope this much explanation was clear to people. Can I move on?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. In very early cases of prolapse, remember, in very early cases of prolapse, grade 1 prolapse, where the prolapse has just begun, okay, where prolapse has just begun, you can do pelvic floor exercises. Okay, you can do them. Now, pelvic floor exercises are good, but they need to be shown and they need to be taught by a very good physiotherapist. Okay, it has to be taught by a very good physiotherapist. Do not try to teach this on your own and tell the patient that you do this and it's going to be fine. No, it is only and only for initial stage of prolapse. Okay, family physician should only remember this much. If it is initial stage, you can do pelvic floor exercises or yoga. Even yoga is very good. Trust me, if there is a yoga instructor here, they should realize that some of the yoga asanas which are given in order to strengthen these things are very, very good. All right. But if it is an advanced grade, anything more than grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, laparoscopic mesh repair for prolapse is compulsory because the defect is in the endopelvic fascia. Uterus is not at fault. There are so many young women in whom I do prolapse repair, so that once I repair the prolapse, they can become pregnant. So please remember this. Okay, it is not compulsory to remove the uterus. In fact, we don't recommend to remove the uterus in all the cases. It is because the uterus is not the primary organ which is at fault. Okay, there are a lot of gradations into it. They are beyond the scope of family physicians. We should not get into it under any circumstances. Okay. With this, I'm going to again rub off everything. And I'm going to tell you very simple things about urine incontinence. The lecture is going to focus only on things which family physicians should know. Trust me, it is such an expansive subject. I know some of my friends, I have 2 of my friends who have done fellowship in urogynecology. So they can actually speak on urine incontinence for their entire life. But that is not the information which a family physician should understand. Family physician should just understand what you should be doing at your OPD level and not think of anything beyond that. Okay, so when we talk of urine incontinence, I will draw the bladder for you. See, this is how the bladder is. Okay, this is the urethra, and above the urethra is the bladder. Okay, now bladder from inside has a muscle. What is the name of the muscle? Can anyone tell me? Yeah, very good. It is called as detrusor muscle. Okay, now urine incontinence is practically of 2 types. Okay, remember, one urine incontinence is when on any increased abdominal pressure, that means in any event of stress, let's say coughing, jumping, jogging, dancing, running, whatever, okay, any increased abdominal pressure. Okay, what happens is when the abdominal pressure goes up, there is some problem which happens in the internal sphincter here. So this sphincter, which is the internal sphincter, becomes weak due to whatever causes, okay, and it causes urine to leak out. Okay, this is called as stress incontinence. Just remember this. Okay, means patient will typically complain to you stating, I was jumping, I was dancing, I was jogging, I was running, and I was doing this, and that is why urine started leaking out. But I was very embarrassed. I did not want to tell it to people. What is this? Okay, and this is something called as stress incontinence. The second type of incontinence is when there are receptors which are present inside the detrusor muscle which are called as muscarinic receptors. Okay, muscarinic receptors. They help in controlling the tone of the detrusor. Sometimes these receptors, okay, they become overactive to stimulation. And what happens is, as soon as urine starts getting filled inside, and once there is an urge to pass urine, remember that word is very important. Urge to pass urine. एक बार उसको urine pass करने का feeling आया, then they cannot control. They have to rush to the bathroom, and even to the washroom, urine leaks out. This is called as urge incontinence. Very, very simple. है ना? Even before they reach the washroom, the urine leaks out. This is called as urge incontinence. Hello. Can somebody stop the noise from behind, please? Okay. This is called as urge incontinence. Okay. What is the typical treatment of stress incontinence? Remember, for family physicians, you must remember this thing. You must send the patient who has a stress incontinence to a gynecologist, and the treatment is going to be surgical repair. Okay. It is going to be surgical repair predominantly in more than 90% of the cases. What is done? I have shown multiple videos of this. You need to put a mesh which goes out on the mid urethra and exits through the obturator. Okay, this is called as TOT mesh, and then there is something called as TVT mesh. Now both of these are varied subjects. You should not be thinking about it at family physician level. There is a third operation which is called as Birch-Colpo suspension. As family physician, you should not be thinking of this at all. You must only be thinking of this history. If the patient tells you that when there is an increased pressure in the abdomen, increased intra-abdominal pressure, okay, very, very simple. Okay, very, very simple. In that situation, you need to send your patient to your gynecologist friend. The gynecologist will examine, they will do certain clinical examinations. They may do, okay, it is not mandatory, but they may do something called as a urodynamic study. Okay, it is called as a urodynamic assessment. They may do this. They will understand that it is stress incontinence, and once they understand it is stress incontinence, majority of the patients are going to end up with surgical repair. Surgical repair is extremely good. The surgical repairs usually give you an outcome of close to 95, 98%, okay, in good surgical hands, of course. When you have urge incontinence, okay, one of the most common causes for having urge incontinence in our country is post-menopause. Second most common cause, which so many of you must be doing in your routine OPD practice, once I write down, आप लोग सब मुझे बोलोगे correct बोल रहा है, is diabetes. Third is obesity. Okay, these 3 or 4 are the most common causes, and fourth, of course, I'm writing down because even this is common, and that is urine infection. But again, urine infection predominantly happens due to diabetes or due to post-menopause. We already know that. In all these situations, remember, if you cut down on obesity, patient will do very well. If you control the diabetes very well, patient will respond very well to urge incontinence. If you, of course, treat the infection, patient will respond very well. Post-menopause is usually treated by giving something called as HRT, hormone response, hormone replacement therapy. And when you give HRT, the patient will respond very well. But despite doing all these efforts, there could be certain conditions where what is going to happen is that it is not going to respond and it is not going to be effective. In that situations, of course, medical management for treatment of urge incontinence is going to be available. There are things into this which are detailed things. For example, we like the patient to maintain something called as a bladder diary. Okay. We also like the patient to maintain, whenever they are suffering with urge incontinence, to have something called as planned voiding. That means go to pass urine every 2 to 3 hours. A very important part of the history in these things is frequency of nocturia, means how many times the patient has to lose sleep. Okay, get up in the sleep and go to the washroom to pass urine. All these things are very important. But for family physicians, if there is one good thing you should remember is that if there are 2 drugs which are very, very effective, okay, I will write down the names for all of you. One is darifenacin and second one is mirabegron. These are commonly used drugs by gynecologists. These are commonly used drugs by our urology colleagues, especially for male as well as female patients, the one who treat incontinence. And these are 2 drugs which are extremely effective as far as treatment of urge incontinence is concerned. There is simply no doubt about this statement. All right. I am not going to get into the details of darifenacin. I'm not going to get into the details of mirabegron. I'm not going to get into so many details, but at family physician level, you must remember this. All these complaints of prolapse and urge incontinence are not going to come out very easily. What is going to happen is the lady will not tell you, no, the female who are suffering from this problem, no, they are not going to come out to you and tell you this problem ke, you know, actually mere ko aisa urine pass ho jata hai. In fact, till the problem starts inhibiting them socially. किसी के शादी पे जाने का था, they could not go. They wanted to attend some function which they could not attend. In all these things, what will happen is sometimes the relatives will also, especially the children, will come to you and tell you, mother is passing urine on the bed only in the night and it is stinking and it is smelling. We are very uncomfortable. Please be very, very, very aggressive. Okay, it has to be a very aggressive treatment by family physicians. The best thing which you can do is, trust me, you can send the patient to a friend who is your urologist or who is your gynecologist or whomsoever you want to send to. There are people like us, or there are many people like us, let me not just put it that way, who specialize in something called as urogynecology. If you see on YouTube or Google, you will find multiple surgeries which we have performed for this, because we really specialize in these surgeries. Okay, you must, under all circumstances, you must ensure that these patients get appropriate attention and they get attention on time. Very, 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 very important. Very, very important. Okay, this is very important. If you treat these patients on time, I'm very confident that your patient will have a very good outcome. There are many more advanced things in urge incontinence, especially these days. No, there is a Masta Bluetooth device which has come. I have only used it in one patient so far because it is very expensive. It is around 6.5 lakh rupees. Okay, it is a nerve implant. It is used predominantly by us in patients who do not understand that there is a bladder. That is something called as a neurogenic bladder, where the urine is retained and there is no reflex mechanism. It is a beautiful Bluetooth device which we can fit in with laparoscopic surgery under Siam guidance. Okay, and it is beautiful. Trust me. All these advanced management is not for family physicians. At family physician level, these are the few points which you should remember about this. Timed referral, early referral is going to be your best bet at your OPD. Today, I have around 5 minutes time. I had told that I'll finish the lecture in 20 minutes. I have around 5 minutes time. I will answer questions. I would like to answer questions because whenever I have taken incontinence sessions, family physicians have asked me wonderful doubts. This has been my experience. So today I'll be answering maybe 3 to 4 doubts which are good and which are logical from our colleagues. So you can ask me questions. Yeah, Dr. Radhika, you can unmute yourself and please ask.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir.
Hi, good afternoon.
Actually, yeah, this is regarding this incontinence. So
Yeah.
sometimes we get the patients saying that frequent urination is there, and
Yeah.
sometimes they say that while coughing they'll pass the urine, and
Absolutely.
sometimes they never give any complaint saying that night they'll get up and go for urination. So
Yeah.
how will you differentiate in these sort of cases?
You have to ask them. See, whenever they are coughing and passing urine, it is predominantly stress incontinence. Whenever they want to go to urine, but they are not able to hold it, they pass urine even before they reach the washroom. That is predominantly urge incontinence. You will have a lot of patients in whom stress and urge incontinence are mixed. Okay, both of them are absolutely mixed. So you can have a component of stress also. You can have a component of mixed urge incontinence also. That is also very common. Very common, because these days quite a lot of women are obese. Quite a lot of women have multiple problems, multiple comorbidities, and in a multiple comorbidity situation, you are supposed to treat them. Understanding?
Okay, sir. Sir, one more thing, if the age of patient is to be considered here, because usually we get to know around 10-year-old.
Every age, no,
Yeah.
every age can be a problem. Remember, I have treated girls who have urine incontinence at the age of 4 years.
Okay.
And I have treated people, I recently operated, I had posted a photo also. I treated somebody who was 92 years old. So you really can't really predict.
Okay, sir. And one more question regarding the prolapse, sir. How will you differentiate among third or fourth degree when any patient from conceptional age.
Clinical examination
Yeah.
is the best way. Only do clinical examination. See, in fact, in most of the lectures which I've taken for family physicians, I've only insisted on clinical examination. If you examine, you don't need ultrasound. If you examine correctly, okay. The problem is majority of the family physicians don't like to examine. Okay. If you start examining PS and PV for your patients, female patients who are complaining of mass per vaginum, there is no way in which you will miss prolapse. Trust me.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah,
Hello.
Pranita ji. Yeah, hi.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. Hi, sir.
Hello,
Sir,
madam.
after laparoscopic hysterectomy,
Yeah.
few of patients develops this stress incontinence.
Yeah.
Then only pelvic exercise is sufficient for them?
No, it depends on the grade of incontinence. See, we normally always ask people this way. Are your undergarments getting wet every time you cough? Right? If it is getting wet every time they cough, that means it is severe. Understanding? They need surgical repair. If they say that no, only one drop is coming. No, it comes only in winter season. If they say something like that, then those people are going to benefit with yoga and pelvic exercises. But again, how are you supposed to examine these people? You are supposed to take them on a full bladder and ask them to cough. Understanding? That is your examination. Based on that examination finding, you are supposed to decide what type of repair your patient will need.
Okay. Okay.
So somebody has asked a question, is horseshoe kidney going to cause incontinence? The answer for that is no. Okay. And another question was, during UTI, should a culture be done each time? Yes. I mean, what is the question in doing that? You have a urine infection. How can you give antibiotics without doing culture? I don't understand. You must do culture. You must find out sensitivity and specificity. And only then you must administer antibiotics. Otherwise, it is not using antibiotics. Otherwise, it is called as abusing antibiotics. And I am sure all our colleagues are not interested in any form of abuse of antibiotics because of the resistance issues. Correct? Any questions further from anyone? Okay. So I think if there are no further questions from any of the members, we would close the session at 30 minutes today. I also want to inform you that next Sunday is 19. Okay. On next Sunday,